Hello everyone, my name is Amir Abbas and I'm here today with my colleague Chitna Bakshi to present the findings from our Project 1, in which we did exploratory analysis of data to find factors related to children's anxiety and depression. We found that various negative or traumatic experiences, such as being a victim of violence or witnessing violence, impacts their mental health. So let's start by looking at our agenda for today. Our agenda for today is to explain our motivation behind taking up this project, after which we'll talk about the data we used and the initial associations that we found with the target groups. Then we dive deeper into our analysis, focusing on two groups and provide our recommendations for and future work. We believe that children deserve to be healthy and happy. But according to Mental Health America, 1 in 5 young people in the United States are affected by mental health issues. Additionally, after researching a bit more into the topic, we found studies which claim that children with such disorders have a higher risk of mental and physical disorders in their adult life, with increased likelihood of unemployment, contact with law enforcement agencies, and need for disability support. We believe something is needed to be done here. Based on our research, we found that negative and traumatic experiences like being treated unfairly, being a victim of violence, witnessing violence, divorce among parents, death of parent or guardian, living with mentally ill person, being bullied, and increased screen time can affect mental health. The data which we chose for our analysis was from National Survey of Children's Health, which was conducted in 2019. A snapshot of this data can be seen here. As can be seen, most of the variables that were chosen by us were categorical in nature. Now let's start looking at our findings. The two pie charts show that there are higher percentage of cases of anxiety have been found among children than depression. The bar graph shows that children with anxiety were more likely to be diagnosed with depression than those who did not have anxiety. Therefore, we decided to focus our work more on children who have been diagnosed with anxiety. Now, we will talk about the factors that we have identified that have relationship with anxiety among children. The first bar graph shows that those children who had anxiety had higher percentage of children being unfairly treated because of their race as compared to those who did not have anxiety. We found a similar relationship for children who witnessed violence or were a victim of violence, as can be seen on the other two bar graphs on the slide. The graphs on this slide continue to show a similar relationship for some other factors, that is parental divorce or death and living with mentally ill person. We found that parent or guardian divorce or separation, death of parent or guardian, and mental health of the person with whom the child was living had a negative impact on the children's mental health, increasing the risk of anxiety among children. Similarly, being bullied and screen time were found to be important factors in this context. Anxious children were more likely to be bullied or spend more time daily on average on screen. That includes spending time on TV, mobile, and computer. So from here, I will hand the presentation to my colleague Chetna Bakshi to give us further insights from the analysis which we have done.
Thank you, Amir. Now we will look at two groups we decided to focus on: high school age children and children belonging to minority races. First, we focus on high school age children. High school age children were found to have higher cases of anxiety. Of those with anxiety, there was a higher percentage of females than males, and the daily average screen time was higher too among anxious high school children. First, we found that children in higher age groups, such as those belonging to high school age, have higher cases of anxiety. The square area on the graph is showing that anxiety is more common among high school age children between 15 to 17 years of age. And within that group of high school age, We find that females in high school age group are more likely to be anxious than their male counterparts. The graph on the left talks about all children. We see that proportion of females with anxiety are higher than males in high school age group. We see something similar when we limit our analysis or our focus on just the children diagnosed with anxiety on the right graph. We wanted to look at potential reasons why female in high school have higher anxiety than males. And one of the possible reasons we found was that females are bullied more in high school age group than their male counterparts. We also found that anxious children in the high school age group spent more time in general, more than 3 hours on screen than those who did not have anxiety. Screen time means any time spent on phone, on TV, on computer, playing games, on social media, or just communicating with others. Now we try to get a deeper understanding about a second group of interest, that is children belonging to minority races. Children from minority races had a higher risk of having anxiety, especially when they witnessed violence. They were a victim of violence. They lived with someone who was mentally ill, depressed, suicidal, or they faced unfair treatment due to their race. We found that children treated unfairly due to their race had a higher risk of being anxious no matter what their race is. For the analysis moving forward, we divide races into two groups, white and non white, that is, majority race and minority races. However, we found that those diagnosed with anxiety and those who belong to minority races, higher percentage of children had faced unfair treatment due to their race than those belonging to majority races, that is, children belonging to the white race. Additionally, we also found that children who had anxiety and who belonged to minority races had higher percentage cases who had witnessed or been a victim of violence, which was much higher than those children belonging to the majority race. We also found that anxious children belonging to the minority race were more likely to have lived with someone who was mentally ill, known to be depressed or suicidal than those who belong to majority race. We tried to look at other research to see if our findings were in line with what others have studied, and we saw that literature also supports the fact that adverse life events and being victim of witness of violence increases the probability of a child suffering from anxiety disorder. Further, anxiety disorders start to emerge around 12 years of age. Additionally, it was also seen that attachment and relationship with parents play an important role in determining whether a child will face mental health problems, especially anxiety. This is what we also found in our work. So, our recommendations for how to move forward with this are, we think it is important to focus on females in the high school age group and try to identify and address the issues which they are facing and which is leading them to have higher anxiety. We also think it is important to identify high risk groups, such as children in minority races who have been through negative emotional experiences in their lives, for special counseling. Our future work, after finding the factor importance for each factor leading to higher cases of anxiety, would be focused on predicting the likelihood of given child having anxiety. We believe this would aid the identification of children with issues and thus would help in planning ways to mitigate these issues leading to anxiety. Thank you for your time. We hope we all can work on this to make the lives of children happier.